Hello, everybody. So I'm an architect, as he said, and also town planner. And 1 year ago, I didn't know anything about VR. I came here and was listening to some speeches, and finally we had time to see, because we were not really good organized, we had time to see 2 experiences. And the first experience I've seen was this Iranian guy who shooted artists in their environment. And it was 360 video, and it was just great to see these people in their place, because for us architects, it's always something very important to know how the people live before you build something for them. So you don't have just the dimension of the person, but the dimension in where the person works or lives. And then the second experiment was the one, I don't know if you remember, it was something very poetic. It was about a person who had lost the view, and he tried to describe how he perceives space with the noises and with some little lights that come up. And also this presentation was quite emotional, because it was the story of a guy who had lost the view, and it was, you know, discovering another dimension that people live. And finally, I thought, now with these ideas, going to architecture, using this for architecture would be something very great, because our main problem with our architecture is that we have, in some sense, a VR in our head, we architect. And we come to the people with this kind of plans. And we say, okay, this is going to be your cellar with your parking when you go here inside. And, well, most of the people don't read space. They just, it's difficult for them to understanding. If they do a big effort, they can try to do it, but it's quite difficult. So when you see, so here you come up to the garden, you can tell them the cars are going to be there, but it's underground, you know, and this is up, this is the garden. And the stairs, well, they are cut in the middle, but it's because, you know, you just see half the stairs. Anyway, it becomes quite complicated. So I was really going back to Geneva. I was thinking, now we have to find something to make the explanation easier for people to understand this architecture we are doing. And finally, I had a lot of work. I had to finish a real building, which was in real life. A lot of people who were asking things, a lot of work, and, well, months were passing, and I forgot a little bit about VR because, yeah, too much work. And some months ago, I think Salah came along with a guy who was a specialist in gaming and developing of spaces in game. And he proposed me to take a 3D model we had done for our clients. Let's see if we can see. We had done a 3D model and more cuts. Something very, very difficult to understand for everybody. Okay, this is the thing which shows, so we go over. How can I do? This is our facade. You don't understand anything. It's a lot of techniques. So this is something that has been invented some 20 years ago. The 3D representation. It's quite nice, you have good colors, but again, it's difficult to imagine in the space, in the place where it has to be, in the neighborhood, and it's, even if you put some people inside, well, a lot of people know that now 3D since 20 years can be how do you say, can be like a picture. You know, when you have a wide angle, you are not going to find the real space that you are going to have, because the wide angle makes the space bigger. And everybody knows, in the meantime, that you can transform the reality like this, and it doesn't give the good scale. And so, with this guy who did the ancient games, we sat together and we tried to transform this building in virtual reality, in order that people, when they get into the house, they can live the dimension with their body. Because dimension is, first of all, a question of body, and also a question of sound. And maybe also smell comes later. But the body gives you the height, you can stretch your hand, you can look if you're touching the ceiling or not, even if it's virtual. And so we started together to develop the house that, in fact, we couldn't build, because the big thing was that we could start VR, because in the house that we wanted to build, big house in Geneva, had an authorization to be built, but again, a misunderstanding with the neighbors made that we couldn't. They stopped the project, they did a trial, because in Switzerland, if we have this direct democracy, if you don't like something or you think it's not going to be nice, and that's mostly, it's like this, that people don't accept something that changes their environment. It's quite natural. We always lived like this, and we don't want to have changes. It's quite usual. So, as I heard that we can do something with VR, I thought, now, at least if I cannot build it in the real life, I'm going to build it in VR. And in fact, we did it. And we could even introduce this building not only as an object that you visit, but as an object that is in a neighborhood. So you could be in the neighborhood, walk in the street, see the building, go into the building. Maybe in some flats you can see furniture, which gives you a good scale. And then you can also jump from one place to another. You can walk. Of course, you can walk and you can jump, like the guy said before from Google, you can walk. But then you get other kind of problems, because you can see everything, but the fact, for us, it's not so difficult to think that we walk in a space. But for a lot of people, they put the headsets on, and then they start to stay like this. And even they don't move their head. So we have to tell them, hey, you can go down, you can look up, feel the space, go ahead. And then they have to track themselves. And this is not so good. Because if, for the moment, people cannot see their body inside, but it's going to come. And I noticed that if people cannot follow in some way the way they do in the space, they get lost in space. But at least they get the feeling of the space, and that's not too bad. And I think we are going to do it better and better for the next years, but I think it's definitely the only way through VR to really have a good communication with the clients, with authorities, in what belongs, for example, making a new building in an environment, and being really sure that the people can measure their place and the future building that is going to be there. So, if you want to see how it looks like, we are in the market, and as I said, I cannot explain it to you. I try to explain it to you, but the best way to understand it is to come and walk in the house and in the neighborhood and to see what you can do with it. So thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you.